So I want to bring up to the podium Sue Trombino. She was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and had a vast exposure to world culture from having been raised in Central and South America, Africa, and Europe. This diverse upbringing gave her a unique perspective on America and fostered an appreciation for the Judeo-Christian values upon which America was founded. Sue holds many things dear to her about the United States of America, one of which is the armed services, which is a great source of pride for her and her family, as her father, mother, and brother all served this country with honor. Her dreams, passions, love of America, and love for the Lord are the driving force in all that she does. She founded Women Impacting the Nation in the fall of 2005. Wow, it's a long time ago. 16 years? Yeah. Because she felt called to make a difference. Her passion for empowering people with God's truth and her strong love of America are the principles on which the foundation of WIN is built. Both are the driving force behind Sue's tireless passion to make a difference. It is her passion to embolden every Christian and American to get involved in saving the moral compass of America. You will often hear Sue ask, "What does God say?" Sue is a professional speaker at seminars, forums, conferences, rallies, and church events. She has been a Bible study fellowship leader and is a graduate of the Chuck Colson Centurion Program. Is that Chuck Colson of the prison ministry? Great guy. Be sure to attend. Okay, that's it. So Sue, I want to welcome you. Don't read the rest of that. Warm welcome for Sue. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. I just have to talk into this thing here. I like to move around, but that's okay. Yeah.
You want a handheld?
No, that's okay. I can kind of move this around. I'll stand right here. All right. Thanks so much. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I've known Roger for a long time, and I was very humbled that he asked me to come here and speak. And so, thank you for being very gracious and having us. And of course, I always bring she's a board member of mine and kind of my right arm, and Debbie Healy, and she's in the back, and she's just amazing. So I'm not even close to Brigitte or anything like that. But I do love this country. I am an out-of-the-closet, card-carrying, unashamed Christian, number one. I'm a conservative, and I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican in that order. And but the one thing is I do want to thank all of you for, that have served in the armed services. My father was a 1st Marine Division Guadalcanal, so I bleed Semper Fi. So anyway, I always say that I'm not only the daughter of the king, but I'm the daughter of a Marine, so watch out. And I'm not too afraid of too many things. But anyway, what I was sitting here thinking, what am I going to tell you all, or what am I going to talk to you all about? Because obviously you all are engaged. You've been doing this for a long time, but you all are the grassroots. You all are what keeps America together. It's not the hierarchy. It's not the senators and the congressmen. It's you all. And so I was going to start out with a story. And I don't know if you've heard of this story or not, but it's a story about Joe. And Joe is an elderly man, and he's sitting on the stoop of his balcony, and his friend Larry comes by, and Joe says to Larry, "Hey Larry, why don't you come up and have some lemonade with me?" So he's sitting in his rocker, and he's got his hound dog, right to his left, and he's got a little table with some lemonade, and Larry comes up and sits in the other rocker. And so they're both rocking and they're talking, and Larry says to Joe, because the hound dog is just howling and howling and howling, and Larry goes, "Joe, why is your dog howling so much?" And he goes, "He's just sitting on a nail." And he goes, "Well, why doesn't he get up?" He goes, "Because it doesn't hurt enough yet." Does it hurt enough yet today? You have stickers that say, I mean, you're putting stickers on all the different places, but your gas is going up. Your things in the grocery store are going up. Your taxes are going up. Things are going down. You can't find anything. But I want you to think about that as I talk tonight, and I'm just going to have a conversation with you. That's really what I do, because I'm not here to really tell you a whole lot, but just hopefully maybe give you, just to empower you and just give you hope that as much as we're in this mess right now, there is a lot of hope. But I want you to think about that. Does it hurt enough yet? Yes. What are you willing to do? Well, are you willing to how are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? Or what are you willing to do that you're even more so? Because as of right now, you really have 7 months, and I want you to hear that. You have 7 months to save this republic. That is it. And so for people, and I tell people all the time, you're talking about 2024 and Trump and DeSantis or whoever else is running in 2024. Stop talking about that. Because unless you get 2022 right, you're not going to have a 2024. And the reason I'm a little bit more passionate now, and I may never pass this way again, so I'm going to be a little tough, but I hope that it'll also, maybe that nail will be a little bit sharper tonight, and that you'll get up and go out and really do. You have to think about what is it that you're really willing to do to save this republic. Because if we don't get 2022 right, then, again, like I said before, we're not going to have a 2024. So let me briefly tell you what we do at WIN, which is Women Impacting the Nation. And our mission statement is that we educate and equip women and men. We never forget our men. Even in the, women, it's WOMEN. But we never forget our men. But what we do is we educate women and men with knowledge of God's truth about our faith, our family, and our freedoms. And then we help support those who take a stand for the Judeo-Christian principles upon which our country is founded. So what I do is I basically stir the pot and get you to think. Because we have become a nation of non-thinkers. Now, I know that this room is a little bit more educated than some people that I meet, so that's great. So I'm probably going to maybe I won't tell you a whole lot of new things, but it's just nice to be able to come together and, iron sharpens iron. But at WIN, what we do is we have what's called WIN Talks all over the country. And WIN Talks are like book clubs in a nutshell. And you meet twice a month for an hour and 20 minutes, and you get educated with truth and facts, not emotion, not conjecture, and really not even our opinion. Because we're all entitled to our opinion, we're just not entitled to our own facts. So we have books in the back. We have 3 different series. There's 7 books in each series. And you read them in the order that we give them to you. And we work with all the top groups like, Matt Staver, David Barton, Bob McEwen. I mean, you name the groups, they like what we do because we're really, really grassroots. And we go into homes. That's kind of what we do. We'll spend, like Debbie and I were just in Georgia, in Statesboro, and we did 9 meetings in 3 days. That's just a little glimpse of what our schedule's like. And we're doing a bus tour, and if you go in the back when you leave here, you'll see our bus back there on our, what do you call that thing? What? Whatever that thing is back there. Anyway, we have a big bus. We didn't bring it today because it's in the shop. It's getting a little tired, but we have a big bus, and we are doing a tour called Saving Our Republic, Ensuring Liberty. So we literally are in homes. I do talk to big groups. I was just talking, to the Republican groups that, down in Vero Beach, but we really like to go into small groups so that we can have a conversation and answer questions that a lot of times when you're in a big group, you really don't get your questions answered. So we do that all over, and we're going into every county. So when we do talks like this, we have people that say, Sue, would you come into my home? You can invite people, your neighbors, your friends that you may not be able to get them here, but they will go to your house because they trust you or they know you. So you can say, yeah, I've got 15, 20 people that'll come to my house. Would you come? And we will come to your home, and we literally talk for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I just stir the pot. And it's amazing how many people all of a sudden, they kind of think the way you do, but they're not really understanding because they're watching that boob tube. And so by talking and having a conversation, all of a sudden the light goes on, and they're a totally different person, and now they're engaged in doing things that, they weren't engaged before. So we do our WIN talks, but then also and we have a methodology that we use. Because right now, I'm sure that all of you are, it's very easy to get upset right now because there's so much bad happening, so many things that are happening. And it's very easy to blame. It's very easy to blame the people in the Senate, the Congress, or, the guy that's sitting in our White House right now. It's easy to blame him. But when you blame, you're pointing the finger. And you forget that you have 3 pointing back at yourselves. And I'm going to be a little tough right now, but the reason we're in this mess today is because it's we the people have become apathetic, disengaged, disinterested. You see, Americans are in a bubble. And I've said this for decades now. Americans are in a bubble, and we think, that's not going to happen here. This is America. Because you see, we're very comfortable. We are the greatest country on the face of the planet. We are not perfect, but we are exceptional. I personally take exception to anybody that says otherwise. You see, you have people, coming over in boats from Cuba or wherever, coming, wanting to come here. Right. And they have come here, right? And I'm in Venezuela. There's a lot of people down in Weston. They don't call it Weston anymore. They call it Westenzuela, because there's so many Venezuelans there, out west in Boca. Oh yes, but people are coming for freedom, and we are the land of the free, because of the brave. But you don't see people going right now into Cuba. You don't see people going really over into Venezuela. And so people are coming here because there's an opportunity. But unfortunately, the American people have been in this bubble. And we just enjoy going to the store, getting whatever we want. We can go to whatever, we can go play golf, we can play mahjong, bridge, we can do whatever we want. We don't have bombs over our head like Israel does, or what's happening in Ukraine. We don't have that. And so now, until it becomes personal, when it becomes personal, then people are starting to be engaged. And now it's become personal. As soon as Biden got in, what did he do? He took away the pipeline, right? Exactly. So, but all of a sudden, people are going, well, wait a minute. This is not right. And that was the Democrat, the unions, going, wait a minute, you're taking away our jobs. Now it became personal. So we have a methodology at WIN that we ask 3 questions. Because a lot of times we want to just be angry at somebody. We want the other side, especially, whether it's within your family, you don't know how to talk to people. So what we do is I ask 3 questions. And I want you to think about the questions that I'm going to ask you, because if you take away anything that I say tonight, is ask those 3 questions to your family members or your friends. It's amazing how questions will soften the anger or the angst. The first question I'll ask you, and usually I would go around the room and say, 10 seconds or less. Why are you here tonight? And that's what I do. And this is kind of like a little franchise. I do this every place I go, whether I'm talking to middle schoolers, high schoolers. Why'd you come here? Why'd you come listen to me? You don't even know me. Why? I want you to think about that. Why are you coming here? On Tuesday nights, once a month. You guys meet once a month? Once a month, why are you coming? You're getting educated, hopefully with truth and facts. But then what? But why are you here tonight? And this is something that you're going to be able to ask people. The second question is a very, very important question, is what is important to you, to the person sitting in your seat, not to your spouse, your best friend, your neighbors, your kids. That is a huge, huge important question, and I'm going to tell you a story in 1 minute. But that's a second question. The third question is, why do you believe the way you believe? Can you really articulate why you're a Republican, Democrat, Christian, Jewish, atheist? I don't care what it is. Why? Do you know that Josh McDowell, I don't know if a lot of you know him, but he's a big apologist. He goes around, but he asked 100 pastors, he did a survey, and he asked 100 pastors, why are you a Christian and why are you a pastor? Half of them couldn't tell him. I'll guarantee you, if you go to your church or your synagogue or wherever you go, or just anywhere, ask people, or if you're talking to them, and go, why do you believe that? It's stunning how many people cannot really articulate why they believe the way they believe. And it's okay. My son, of course, when he was younger, I would always want him to be Republican. I do that loosely now, but Republican. And it wasn't because, but I always said, I don't want you to be that because mom and dad are. I want you to be that because I want you to be able to know why you are voting this way or why you believe this. You have to be able to make a difference. You have to know what you believe or why you believe it. A lot of times our side, we back off because we know the other side isn't right, but we really don't know how to combat that, so we kind of back off because we don't want to sound silly. And that's what happens, especially, and I'll talk with the Christian community. If only a quarter of the Christians would vote their biblical values, we would not be in this mess, and we would be winning every single election in a landslide. That's just a fact. And, you know, there was 25 million Christians that were not even registered to vote. I mean, we can go into statistics, but that's really, you have to know what you believe and why you believe it. And so the second question, the reason I say what is important to you is because that's the question that you're going to be able to bring people into your side. I'll tell you a story. In 2000, I think it was 8, it was where we had Obama and Biden. No, I'm sorry, not Biden. McCain. It was Obama and McCain. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to be upfront, honest, and you're going to, I mean, what you see is what you get, but not that we had a huge choice, but we had a choice. So I decided to invite, I went to a pretty good sized church, and I decided to invite every single woman in that church, whether I knew her or not, to come to a talk I was going to give, a 20-minute talk. So I called a gal. She was the secretary, and I want you to hear this whole story. It was the secretary of our pastor, and I'll call her Lily. It's my Lily story. And I said, Lily, I'd like to invite you to a talk I'm going to give on Monday night. And she says, Sue, you do know I'm a Democrat. I said, well, Lily, I said, are you interested? I ignored that. I said, are you interested in what's going on in our country today? And she goes, oh, yes, I'm very interested in what's going on in our country. But this isn't going to be a Democrat bashing thing, is it, Sue? I was on the phone. I have to tell you, I was taken aback by that. And I said, Lily, I said, how long have you known me? And she goes, Sue, I've known you a long time. I trust you. I'm going to come. She came. I gave my 20-minute talk. Now, we at WIN do not tell you how to vote or who to vote for. We're a 501c3. I want to get you to think so that in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, I'm not having to push a wet noodle again or having to come to you and tell you, you got to vote this way. So I want you to really understand what you believe so that you cannot be moved. So when she came, I gave my 20-minute talk, and before she left, she said, Sue, I am blown out of my mind by what I did not know that I did not know. Thank you for inviting me. Well, the next day, that was the beginning of the story. Because the next day, I always try to do a follow-up, and I called her up and I said, Lily, I'd like to thank you so much for coming last night. I said, you know, you could have stayed home watching Dancing with the Stars. Not that that's bad, but you could have done that, but you came to get educated, and I said, I'm very thankful for that, so thank you for coming. And she says, Sue, I am blown away by what I did not know that I did not know, but I just don't know who to vote for. I was like, okay, you know where God, you always think you do something really good, but then God smacks you around? Well, he kind of smacked me because I thought I did a good job without saying you can't vote for this guy, you know, but I can't tell you to vote for this guy. So I was like nanoseconds on the phone, and I said, I was saying, Lord, what do I say to her? And all of a sudden he gave me this, and he said, and I asked her, Lily, what is important to you? Not to your spouse, your best friend, your neighbors, your kids, your parents, and what the media is telling you, but what really floats your boat? Immediately out of her mouth, she says to me, abortion. Now, this is her story. She was pro-life. So I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. So what I said to her, now this is just her story. Now this can be, there's a lot of different stories, but this was her story. So I said to her, I said, Lily, doesn't the Lord say you will know them by their fruit? She goes, yes. I said, I tell you what, let's not listen to what either candidate is saying. Let's not even listen to what either party is saying. Let's go see how they voted. She was at home, I was at home. So I said, why don't you go to your computer? I said, I'm going to walk you through something. We're going to go to the Arizona Senate. Went over to the Arizona Senate, walked her through some steps. Well, ding, ding, ding. McCain voted for life. I said, now let's go over to the Illinois Senate. Walked her through the same steps. Well, whoop. Red flag, red flag. Now, no pun intended today, because the red flag bill. But red flag. Not only did Obama at the time vote for partial birth abortion, but he was one of 2 at the time that voted that if that child should survive that partial birth abortion, that child should be murdered. Immediately out of her mouth, she says to me, "Oh my gosh, Sue, I would have voted for a man that believes in death." Now, as a Christian now, this is just a Christian story, if I had said to her, first of all, if you're a Christian, it has nothing to do about the donkey or the elephant. It is about the lamb. What does God say? Now, if I'm talking to a Jew or somebody else, I'm not going to go down that road. But because she said that, so when she said that, I thought, well, if I had said to her what I really wanted to say, when she said, "Sue, you do know I'm a Democrat," I wanted to say, "Lily, how is it possible to be a Democrat and a Christian at the same time? That's an oxymoron." I would have lost my witness. The wall would have gone up, and that would have been the end. But because I turned it around and I asked her what was important to her, that's her story, that's not my story. So now what happens? Iron sharpens iron. That's the horizontal, but I pointed her to the vertical. So you see, 97% of the people in this country have no idea why they're Republican or Democrat anyway. They are because their neighbor is their spouse, they've just been told. And they grew up that way, right? So while asking people, and people, when you start telling people what to get involved in, how to do this, or how to vote, they get their backs up, right? So when you turn it around and you say, like if I'm in the store or I'm talking to anybody that's not on my side, that doesn't believe the way I do, I just know that they're just maybe not educated on the things that I'm educated with. But I also want to be learned and teachable. We have to lower our pride a little bit. We don't have to let the other side know that you know everything. So what you do is you just ask the question. So when I talk to people, I'll say, "Well, why are you so angry? What's important to you?" And if they tell me Israel, I'll say, "Oh, have you heard of Kufi? Have you heard of ICEJ? Have you heard what stand?" Different things. If they say to me, if what's upsetting them is Islam, I'm going to go, "Wow, have you gotten involved in the Acts? Do you know Brigitte Gabriel? Do you know Qum Ministry? Do you know Middle Eastern Christian Ministries?" Or I'll bring into them what floats their boat. If they're really into education, or I want to listen. And that's what we haven't done, is we don't listen. We just want to tend to jump and tell everybody, "Oh, you got to believe what I'm believing." We're never going to bring people to our side. But you have to understand that most people are really more like us and believe more like us than we think. But because we're so ready to just knock them out, then there's that divide. So asking questions is really important, and that's kind of a crux of what we do at WIN. And I get, it's just amazing how many. I had talked to a gentleman. He was a Jewish man, and we're down in Boca, and you know that from Palm Beach down to Broward, it's the largest Jewish community outside of Israel. And well, now it used to be Boca was the third. It was New York and then Boca, but now from Palm Beach down to Broward, it's a a lot of Jewish people. And we have an incredible relationship with the Jewish people. And I was talking to a Jewish man. He was very, very tall. His name was Sal. He was about 6'4" or 5". I don't know. He was very tall. I was looking up at him. And he was so left-leaning. But I'm trying not to lose my witness. I just want to kind of uppercut him, kind of like, "Oh, my gosh, where's he coming up with this stuff?" And so I said to him, he says, "Sue, I hope I'm not offending you." And see, this is what happens. We get offended very easily. Don't have the spirit of offense. If you know the truth, why are you getting mad? Yes, there's righteous anger, and what we have right now is anger. But a lot of times it's because we haven't gotten involved. So we really shouldn't be pointing the finger at them. Let's just see what we can do. Just the person sitting in your seat. You can't do everything, but you can do something. So anyway, so I'm talking to him, and he says, "Sue, I hope," he goes, "I hope I'm not offending you." And I kind of tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Sal, you couldn't offend me, but where are you coming up with this stuff?" You see, I turn it around. Where are you coming up with this stuff? I said, I looked right at him, and I said, "Because Sal, you're entitled to your opinion." And then I kind of tapped him on the shoulder, on the side of his arm. I said, "Because you're entitled to your opinion. You're just not entitled to your own facts. But listen, you have an awesome, blessed day." And I turned around, I started walking away. And he was stunned. He goes, Sue. I go, what? I go, call me, I gotta go, call me. Do you know that that man calls me almost every 3 weeks? He loves to have a conversation because I didn't smash him. You see, we have control over that. And so now all of a sudden, we're working with the Jexit girls. I don't know if they might be somebody good that you guys could have up here. You have Blexit and Jexit, and, so they're the Jews exiting the Democrat Party. Well, what's amazing is we worked with them the last couple of years is just, learning and just educating the Jewish people, just having a conversation. Do you know the statistics in Florida are the most that the Jews have voted for a Republican president was 23%. And that was, I believe it was George Bush. 21% was Mitt Romney. Do you know because of educating in the Jewish community, just talking, asking questions, and the way they do everything, they're really awesome. Do you know that 43% voted for Trump? See, it's all about education, not smashing, not telling people you got to vote this way. And it's really amazing how you can bring more people into you when you do that. So that's kind of a big deal of how we talk to people. Is really I try to teach that is just ask the questions, but you can't do that unless you know what you believe and why you believe it, because you're going to be tossed to and fro if you really don't know how to stand and articulate why am I standing for this. And so it's really amazing is when you really know what you believe and you've drawn that line in the sand and you have the courage of your convictions, nobody's going to be able to push you back. I could stay in this room could be full, and it could be all naysayers, and that's okay. And they could come at me, but I know what I believe, I know why I believe it, but I can learn from them, learn what to say, not to say, and it's really amazing how the way you say things is how you can bring people into you. And I can tell you right now, I've brought a lot of different, very left-leaning people because they just, you just plant seeds. Now, you're not going to get everybody, and you can't do that. Don't get upset, right? So I do want to ask you, if there's anybody that, if you want to have questions, because I don't want to, let me try that. All right, because I was listening to a couple of the gals, what you all are interested in doing here in this area. I don't know Brevard very well, but what we're doing with our tour is we literally are going into every county, and so I try to find out what's important to that county, what is everybody's into. So if you have any questions, I love to. I'm better at answering questions, instead of just talking, because I don't want everybody just here listening to me talk, but. I do have to say, I've been privileged to live all over the world. My dad was 1st Marine Division, Guadalcanal, like I said, but we didn't move around the world because of that. My dad actually was, he worked for Standard Oil. And so every country I've lived in, there's been a coup. So I get, and sometimes I say that and I go, geez, I'm here in the States and there's almost going to be a coup. Maybe that's not good. It's following me. I don't know if I should say that or not. But it's amazing how we just need to have more pride in America. People need to start to and I hope I don't offend you when I say this, but the problem is we're watching that boob tube. And that TV, it's not what they're saying, it's what they're not saying. And what they're saying to you, it tickles your ears, and it sounds good because we're conditioned to do that. And I'll talk to people and I'll say, oh my gosh, you're listening to MSNBC, CBS, and they go, how do you know that? I go, because of the talking points that you're saying. And I always say, you're smarter than that. So you're a Fox News person, one of those. And I go, see, there you go again. You're assuming. You see, I haven't watched Fox News in 8 years. I don't need to, because it's a lot of times you have to see, be wise, and you talked about wisdom, be wise of what you're putting in, because a lot of times we get so upset about something that's not even factual. Do you really know what's factual? I don't know. I'm just stirring the pot. So this is very important, and a lot of times we get angina because we're sitting there watching that. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. So what are you putting in? Garbage in, garbage out. So, we try to, we have on our bus tour, we have our Wind Talk Radio. Debbie's one of I have 3 co-hosts. Debbie, Janique, and you were talking about a gal that spoke at the Republican group today. Happened to be a black gal. She was talking about critical race theory. Is that who it was?
Yes, and her name was Frances, I think Rice.
Okay. Well, we have a gal, if you ever want to have, Janique is she's one of our co-hosts, but she probably speaks to over 100,000 kids a year. And she's in colleges, she spoke to our group last night, and about critical race theory. She talks about cancel culture, and it'll be up on our Women Impacting the Nation, Rumble, we're on all that stuff, and but also our Wind Talk Radio, and she's phenomenal with that. And but then we have Carrie, who's a little bit younger, and so we have all different age brackets on our Wind Talk Radio, but. In our Wind Talk, I just lost my train of thought. I was going about 2 miles an hour in my head. Anyway, but with the, it's just really important to, this is what happens when you get older and your mind goes like crazy. Do you guys get that? I do, anyway. But I'm going fast because I want to get a lot in here. But with our Wind Talk Radio, that's what we're doing on our bus, but we really like to talk about all different types of topics. We are not, if we offend you, we're sorry, but you can call in and you can, write us questions, and we'll have a conversation, because we're not saying that we're always right or anything else, but we want to be learned and teachable, but we will talk about things that people don't want to talk about. And that's very, very important. But you can't do that unless you really know what you believe and why you believe it. And that's the problem. People are afraid to be called names. Now, because they probably don't know what they believe and why they believe it, and that's just the bottom line. That's a fact, So by asking, but that's a great point. And so this is what you can do to help, your candidates, is sit down with them. This is what we used to do with when I don't do that as much, well, we don't do that as much anymore. But I literally, if you were in a primary, and I've had some people call me and say, Sue, would you come and sit down with our candidates? Because I don't like to use the word vetting, because that really is not, we really don't vet. And I think words matter, and we tend to use words very loosely and very willy-nilly, and so we don't vet people. You talk to them and you try to find out more about them. But it's amazing how you will know about a candidate. Well, actually, I'll tell you this story. When we used to sit down with if they were in a primary, there was one gentleman, there was 3 people in, I forget the district, but it was going against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And there was one, unfortunately, we're in that whole area. But there was 3 people. There was one guy who, and I don't know if you all remember this, but he was Cuban, but he was a transvestite. He would dress as a woman. So he was one person running. Then it was this other guy, and then there was this gal. Now, I'd already done the transgender person, the guy, I can call him a guy because he was a guy, then the gal, and then I hadn't talked to the other guy. So I called his campaign manager up, and I said, I'll call him Joe. I said, hey, Joe, I'd like to sit with Larry, and because I know there's a debate coming up. And he said, oh, no, he's trying to get ready for the debate. He's not feeling really good, and so we're not going to. I said, okay, that's fine, but we'll just, when people ask us, what does he believe? Then we'll just tell him that you just really didn't want to sit with you. And he goes, well, yeah, but we're trying to get ready for the debate. And I said, well, what better way to get ready for a debate than to sit with Women Impacting the Nation? We'll just sit with our board, and we're just going to ask questions. And so he says to me, and this is going to teach you something here. He says to me, he goes, well, can I sit with you? Now, I'm blonde. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, I'm on the phone like this. And he says, can I sit with you? And I go, oh, are you running? Nice smile on my face. And there was a pause, and he goes, well, no. And I go, well, why would I want to sit with you? Now, I'm nice, but I'm not. You see, you can't play games. This guy's supposed to represent me, and I can't sit with you? I said, that's fine, no problem. But I'm not mean. Do you see how am I offending you right now when I'm talking? That's exactly how I talk. So then all of a sudden he goes, well, let me see. Well, don't you know, he called us back and we got to sit with him. It was the day before the, so we sit down, we're at a Panera Bread, had all my board members there. And I know that they are going to tell me, they're going to answer the questions of how they go on our website and they see that we're Judeo-Christian. They're going to answer all the questions that we think, but they don't think that we are that sharp. So I asked the guy, the first thing he's saying, I said, tell us about you. And this is what you can do. I said, just tell me a little bit about you. Oh, well, my dad was a pastor. We're from the Midwest, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden he says, oh, yes, and I'm Presbyterian. And some of you may not know this. I don't know, but he says, well, I'm Presbyterian. And I said, oh, really? I said, okay, that's awesome. I said, is that PCA or USA? Do you know the divide? Well, the USA went way to the left. So I said, oh, so is that PCA or USA? Because I knew right then he had no idea what he was talking about. He just said, because when I asked him PCA or USA, he was like deer in headlights. He's like looking at me like, oh, gosh darn it, what am I going to say? And all of a sudden he goes, USA. Kind of like, USA, USA. And I thought, wrong answer, buddy. But I'm just nice and smiling. I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, thank you so much. And we asked him all these other questions. And I said, well, thank you so much for, coming and sitting with us. And when he leaves, we're just in hysterics because my board goes, how did you not laugh? I mean, I'm like, it's stunning. But you have to ask the questions. And when you sit with your candidates, ask them and put all the answers here and say, what office are you running for? Like if they're commissioner or city council, say, thank you. What are the criteria of what you're running for? It's stunning. They don't know. And they're going to represent you. So this is why it's incumbent that we call them. That's how you can get involved. I'm sure you guys are all involved, but we really talk truth and take action. That's what I was going to talk about. Is it on our buses? We talk truth and we take action. And we're always giving people action steps. And so what are you going to do with the action steps? Well, you have to be registered to vote, obviously. Are you voting? Number one, not even in the primary. The primary is the most important this year. Huge, huge, huge. But then, are you poll watching? Every single person in this room needs to be a poll watcher or poll worker. And you know why? Because that's why Virginia won. Because over 1,000 people just stepped up to the plate, didn't know what they were doing, but they just stepped up. And when we show up, that's our tagline, when we show up, we win. We're not showing up. Even your presence, they're gonna go, wow, they're gonna cheat. But then you stand. You have to stand and say, if they're going to try to kick you out, say, no, no, no. Make a big stink if you have to, because no, 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 I have a right. See, the point is that we're afraid. It's like, oh my gosh, no, 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 no. You have to know what that's why, in the back, we have all the, you have to, well, first of all, you have to know your Constitution. Do you know your rights? Most people, we believe what we believe, but we've never read our Constitution. And we are so far away, even the Republicans. Now, here's a Constitution, and here's a Bible. Okay? This is your right. Right? I'm going to do it the opposite here. Right and left. So the Republicans are always, always, always to the right of the Democrats, right? Am I going this way? Right? Whatever. You understand what I'm saying, right? They're always going to be to the right of the Democrats. But look how far away they're from their Constitution. And whether you're a Bible-believing person or not, it's still, that's how we were founded. But look how far they are. And we're not holding them accountable. And that's where we really have to be phone calling. We usually give out, this is what I encourage every group in every different county, is get a list of every city council member and their phone numbers and emails. Your county commissioners, phone numbers and emails. Your representatives, the mayor, your state senators, every one of them. Debbie and I are, when we're driving, we're making phone calls. If she's driving, I'm making phone calls. Usually on the bus, I'm the bus driver, so when you see that 35-foot bus, I'm driving that thing. Debbie's she's the stewardess. But we're always phone calling to everybody because they work for us, we don't work for them. And so that's just really, really important, is to get involved, to find out what is really important to you and say to yourself, okay, I have 7 months to save this republic. What am I willing to do, or what can I do today? We're not promised tomorrow. So don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. Just one phone call. Can you imagine if everybody in this room made one phone call tomorrow to one, pick somebody in your area that really needs to hear from you. Who's somebody in this area?
Rick Scott. Rick Scott came here, our senator, and spoke for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And not once, well, he brought up a Haitian lady that crossed the border and needed help and this and that. But he never really talked about open borders or what was happening with the flame loads of illegal aliens that were coming into the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it galled me. It galled me so much. And I have
Were you able to ask questions at all?
No, I ran down the hall and
Mm-hmm.
grabbed him afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I practically tripped him.
Okay.
He knew where I was coming from because I had yelled out a couple of times about open borders.
Okay.
And he just did not want to go there.
Well, this is where every one of you, if you call it, if that's how you feel, you need to call them and say, wait a minute, why are we sending guys over to Ukraine to help them? And not that that's, and please hear my heart on this, but you're sending our guys there, but why aren't we sending our guys over to our place? So whatever you feel, you need to let them know. Don't just sit in your home and talk amongst each other, or you're, back and forth with your husband and your wife. You need,
COVID helped.
well, we need to be, but you see, we're not speaking up. That's why. But when, I promise you, I just was talking to a gentleman out in Colorado, and there was a left-leaning guy that, one of the Democrats that had put forth a bill that was very, very bad. But because the people stepped up to the plate and made the phone calls, the guy tabled it. Right now, my humble opinion, and I really shouldn't go to here, but I'm gonna. My humble opinion, DeSantis should have vetoed this last bill. But you know what? He didn't hear from enough of us. That's the problem. The bill, when they say that it's for the businesses, to protect the businesses from getting lawsuits, that bill had nothing to do with businesses. It had everything to do about health care workers. And right now, every hospital is immune. They have immunity. You can't sue them no matter what bad they're doing. And this isn't about whether you're masked, not masked, jabbed, not jabbed. That's what's awesome about America, is that we have the freedom to choose to do that, either way. But
The number of that bill?
yes, sorry? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, but he needs to still hear from you today. And so there's a lot of other things, and I can give Roger some things to do, but if everybody, like we have a chain where we send out an email with all the phone numbers, because unfortunately a lot of people aren't going to go do that. Sometimes you have to speak. Well, I know, but unfortunately some people, you have to spoon feed them, and that's okay. I will do that. We will stay up to all hours of the night. If you need a question, we will answer that question. You can take our number. You can call us. We are willing to do that. I mean, right now, my husband knows, and Debbie's husband, we're on the road all the time. I'm away from my husband because this is what is very important. If every one of us doesn't do something, don't be a could've, would've, should've, because after November 4th or whatever, November 5th, you're either going to be a Venezuela, and right now I tell people all the time, and I will give you permission, if you have friends that say they like socialism, I will give you permission to say, I have a friend, her name is Sue Trombino. Now, what I'm about to tell you, my husband cringes every time I say this, but I mean it. But if anybody says to you they love socialism, you say, I have a friend, her name is Sue Trombino, and she's going to give you a free ticket to the country of her birth. And that's Caracas, Venezuela. And I'm not kidding. I will give you a free ticket to Venezuela. To Venezuela, Caracas, where I'm... Two-way? No. I just say the caveat is, I started out with a couple of months, then I got to 10 days. Now I'm just going to say the caveat is you have to stay there for 6 days. You wouldn't last 2. I'm telling you right now, you would not last two days in my country right now. It's not my country. Well, it is. So the thing is, right now, and I'll tell you a very true story. There's an elderly man, and he has. It's not. Tom, tell me when I have to stop talking, because I don't know what the time is. But he actually, it's not a tattoo on his arm, but it's a magic marker, and this is factual. This is what they do. He's got a number 5 on his arm, and he is allowed to go to the grocery store on Mondays and Wednesdays, and he will stand in line, for 5, 7, 10, 12, maybe 15 hours, and then he'll get to the line. Kind of like when you went to Costco and you had to wait in line to get toilet paper, and all of a sudden there wasn't any toilet paper. Just like that, he'll get to the line and they say, there's no more food. Anybody here speak Spanish? Habla español. ¿Sí? ¿De dónde eres? En Paraguay, okay. So, le digo a la gente que tienes que tener cuidado lo que estás diciendo porque nunca sabes quién está escuchando. What I said was, you better be very careful what you're saying because you never know who's listening. So I'm blonde, blue-eyed. They don't think, that I speak Spanish, but I am. But anyway, but that's what. So what happens is when he gets to the end and he says, "There's no more food," he's got to now wait till Wednesday, and he's got to do the same thing all over again. That is real. That is reality. And unfortunately, we really, really, really don't know what that's like. We have sympathy, but we can't have empathy because we don't live that way. Now we're seeing a little bit, and I don't know. Someday when I get to see the Lord, I'm gonna ask why the toilet paper. I don't understand why that particular thing happened, but I would be in line, and there would be some Haitian gals, in Publix, and I'd say to them, "So what do you think of what's happening here?" And I'd start talking to them. I didn't care how many people were in line there. I'm going to plant a seed and start saying, this is going to start to get worse. Next thing you know, this is a true story. Next thing you know, I had 9 people in line, and they're all like listening to me. Because I'm going to plant a seed. I'm not worried about whether somebody's going to yell at me, get mad at me. Because this is my country now. This is America. And if you're not willing to fight for it, you see, we had 56 signers. Do you know that? And it doesn't take a whole lot of people to change. This room right here can change Brevard County. You know why? Because there was only 12 disciples. I want you to think about this. There was only 12 disciples. There was only 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. And there was one Savior. One woman took out prayer and Bible out of the school. Texas, Iowa, and California became states by 1 vote. A madman was put into power by a chancellor by 1 vote. That was Adolf Hitler. 1 person can make a difference. What can you do? Does it hurt enough yet? What are you willing to do? I mean, we do a lot of different things, from our Wind Talk radio to we're about to do our podcast also. But we have to get educated with truth and facts, not emotion and conjecture, and being willing to stand. Are you willing to stand alone? And I may leave you with that. Are you willing to stand alone? Yes, sir.
Sue, that was a wonderful presentation. I think that WIN is a great organization to support, so let's get some support to them. They have an information table in the back and an email sign-up list for more information. So please check them out. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.